Hello, we're going to go over Statistics, Chapter 2, Section 2.3 to 2.5. So now we're going to look at visualizing variation in categorical variables. So remember, categorical are variables that are like words that are basically put things in categories. So the first thing we're going to look at is a bar chart, and you've seen a bar chart before most likely. So I asked my students to name some movies. So they gave the movies Fast and Furious 6, Batman, Dark Knight Rises, Shawshank Redemption, Man of Steel, Superman, and The Hangover 3. And I went and looked up how much money they made in millions in the box office in the United States. So Fast and Furious 6 made $283 million, Batman The Dark Knight Rises made $448 million, Shawshank Redemption made $28 million, Man of Steel, Superman made $291 million, and The Hangover 3 made $112 million. But again, looking at words and numbers, you may not be able to get the point of what's going on in the message. So a bar chart can help. So we're going to put the movies on the x-axis and the millions on the y-axis. So we have bar graph that is going vertically. So we put our movies here on the x-axis. I drew pictures this time. And then we put our money. Now, when you decide the money on the y-axis, we need to decide a scale. So because the lowest is 28 and the highest is 448, I decided to go from 0 up to 500, counting by hundreds. So you'll notice that Fast and Furious, the little car, goes up, made a bar up to 283 million. Batman Dark Knight Rises, which I guess it's supposed to be a bat, goes up to 448 million. Shawshank Redemption, where he used this little tool to escape jail, made 28 million. Superman, Man of Steel, made 291 million. And The Hangover 3 made 112 million. So what's nice about a bar chart is you can compare them side by side. Batman made the most, where Shawshank Redemption made the least. You can kind of see which ones are close to each other. So for example, Man of Steel and Fast and Furious 6 were close, and you can see that all with a bar chart. Okay, we can also look at a pie chart. So if I take these same movies, again, the name of the movies, how much money they made, and I want to, let's say you put out all these movies in the same summer, and you want to find out what percent each movie made. So step one, you add up all the sales, and you get 1,162. And to find the percent, we take each individual movie total and divide it by the total, grand total. So 283 divided by 1162 gives us about 24%. Be very careful going from fractions to decimals to percents. I find that's a common mistake that people make, so be careful. That would be 0.24, which is 24%. Batman, 448 divided by 1162 gives us about 0.39, 39%. Shawshank Redemption, 28 divided by 1162 gives us 0.02, about 2%. Man of Steel, 291 divided by 1162 gives us 0.25, 25%. And Hangover 112 divided by 1162 gives us 0.1, which is 10%. And all that adds up to basically 100%. So again, looking at the numbers, it's nice, but I want a visual. So we're going to do a pie chart. Notice the pie, the circle, represents 100%. And what I like to do is the largest one first and go down. So I find the center. We know that half of the pie would be 50. A quarter of the pie would be 25. So Batman made 39%. So I'd go to the center and a little up, so it's not a half, but 39%. The next one is Man of Steel, which is 25%, which would be a quarter. Fast and Furious 6 would be 24%. And then 10% for Hangover and 2% for Shawshank Redemption. So again, we can see everything, and Batman made the most. Man of Steel and Fast and Furious 6, very similar. And Shawshank Redemption is the smallest piece of the pie. Okay, we can also look at other things. So I asked my students how many credits are you taking this semester, and the response I got were 12, 13, 15, 9, 13, 14, 6, 12, 11, 11, 11, 11, 9, 3, 10, 6, 11, 12, 16, 9, 7, 14, 12, 9, 12. Well, it's a bunch of numbers. But one thing we can find is the mode. The mode is the number that occurs the most. So notice that 12 appears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times the most. So 12 would be our mode. 12 would be our mode. We can also do mode with categorical data. So I asked my students which one could they not live without, and 18 students said they couldn't live without their cell phone, and 12 students said they couldn't live without the internet, and 1 student said television, and no student said landline phone, and no student said email, and no student said an 8-track tape player. So the response that was the most was cell phone, therefore the mode would be cell phone. We also want to look at variability, again, how diverse our data is. So if you notice in the first chart, the tallest bar is the white, and then Asian's a very small bar, African American's a very small bar, American Indian's a small bar. So this one's not very diverse, not very variable. But the other one, you notice that the bars start lower, higher, a little lower, a little higher, much lower, then higher, than higher. But the bars are very spread out, therefore we have more variability, more diversity. Okay, be careful when interpreting graphs. For example, this one shows 1998, small bar, 1999, much taller bar, and you're like, wow, there's a big increase in home price. But if you look at the scale, 1998 was 80,000, 1999 was 82,000, only a 2,000 difference, which could be a lot, but the graph makes it appear like a very big difference, so be careful. The next graph, you notice, shows 2001 and 2002, and the bar, 2002 is higher. But in 2001 and 2002, there's a much bigger difference. But if you analyze the graphs, 16, 24, 16 for the smaller, 24 for the larger, 16 for the smaller, 24 for the larger, just because I extend the scale, be careful, I can make the difference look much more. So be careful when analyzing graphs because it can be misleading. I have a couple videos, or website and a video that I want you to check out. The first one is a very cool one. It's a State of the Union, 1, 2, 3. And basically what they did is they took speeches from presidents, the State of the Union, and they analyzed them. And notice what they did was all the words that appear the most in the speech is larger. And words that were not used that much are smaller. Notice in Donald J. Trump's speech, February 28, 2017, Americans, America, American. He wanted to get across that America, Americans are important. So he repeated that over and over and over in the State of the Union. And again, we can go back to George W. Bush, to Obama, Richard Nixon, Franklin Roosevelt, William McKinley, Rutherford B. Hayes, Andrew Johnson, James Polk, Martin Van Buren, James Monroe, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, all the way to George Washington, to see what was important, what they wanted to emphasize in those speeches. Also, it's a really good video. Hans Rowland's 200 Countries, 200 Years in 4 Minutes is a great video to watch where they use technology to represent data. Thank you. And that concludes Chapter 2.